We just want to remind everybody that this is over a $500 million annual savings to small businesses in Texas. And that goes a long way, again, to support your local community, support what's going on.
The Small Business Rundown is the official podcast of the National Federation of Independent Business, the member-driven voice of small business. NFIB and our members advocate to keep America's small businesses strong and independent in Washington, D.C., all 50 states, and the nation's courts.
Welcome to the Small Business Rundown, a bi-weekly podcast with information on independent businesses' victories and challenges in Washington, D.C. and state capitals. I'm Adam Temple, NFIB's Senior Vice President of Advocacy. A few states have elections coming up in November, some of which include ballot propositions that will heavily affect small businesses. Today, we'll focus on a ballot issue in Texas that could provide meaningful tax relief for small businesses in that state. Joining me are NFIB member and small business owner Tim Green, Region State Director Dawn McVea, and Texas State Director Jeff Burdett. Thank you all for joining us today.
Adam, thank you for having me.
Glad to be here with you, Adam.
Happy to be here today.
Jeff, I'll start with you. Can you start by explaining a little bit about this inventory tax issue in Texas?
So the inventory tax, the business personal property tax, or the tangible personal property tax is a tax that all businesses in Texas pay.
Mm-hmm.
So many people don't know what this is. And so when I explain it at the legislature, the way I say is, if you take a business and you turn it upside down and shake it, everything that fell out would be part of the business personal property tax. So you're talking about your desks, your computers, chairs, but also any kind of inventory that's waiting to be sold, any kind of raw materials for making whatever you're making, and even machines for making what you're making are all part of this tax. Well, most of these things are taxed on the front end when you buy them, and they're all going to get taxed when you sell your inventory. So this is just another layer of tax that, quite frankly, is unnecessary for our businesses.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And Dawn, you've been working on this issue for a long time. Can you give us some context as to why this is such a big issue for NFIB members?
Yeah, Adam, one of the things our members tell us, no matter what state they're in, is that they have tax rate concerns and tax compliance concerns. So number one, that answers your question right there. It's always on their mind. But secondly, we see these things happening in states across the country, and our ability to be there at the Capitol and lobby on these issues, but then engage at the ballot level is so important. And we're being able to positively impact that in a lot of places.
Absolutely. And turning to you, Tim, can you just start by telling us a little bit more about your business?
Fox Scientific was established back in 1988. We're a wholesale distributor for laboratory supplies and equipment, like research chemicals, beakers, laboratory test equipment, that type of thing. We service mostly industrial type laboratories. So we sell into 38 states. We've been around for a really long time, a good solid mid-size company. And, we've been around for a while. We carry lots of inventory, and, this is an important piece of legislation for us.
And you mentioned that you've been around for a long time, so you have a history with this. As Jeff mentioned, it's been around since 1979. What do you see as being most problematic with the threshold being as low as it is?
Well, it feels like I don't own any of my property or my inventory. I just rent it, right? I mean, look at all my servers and my desk and my furniture. I don't own any of that stuff. I just rent it. I keep paying for it, and I pay for it, and I keep paying for it. And God forbid I have any slow-moving inventory because I keep paying and paying for it. So, it's difficult for small business. And Texas is a really great state to run a small business in, and it took a lot to get this thing up to the finish line in the voters. And I'm hoping the voters will support this and help get this thing across the finish line. I mean, this is a wonderful piece of legislation. And man, we need to get this across the finish line to give us a little bit of relief, and every little bit helps.
Thank you for listening to the Small Business Rundown. Our efforts to fight for small businesses are only possible because of the advocacy and dedication of small business owners across the nation. There is strength in numbers, and your voice makes a difference. To get more involved, find us online at nfib.com/takeaction.
You actually brought up a good point I wanted to touch on. So if you have inventory that is with you for 2 years at tax time, you're going to get taxed on it both times just because you still own it?
Absolutely. And great question. And I'm not sure if general public knows that, but yeah, it's the gift that keeps giving, so to speak, right? I mean, yeah, we get to keep on paying for that thing. So it's the desks and the servers and the PCs and everything else on the personal property tax. But yeah, specifically the inventory is the big number.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thinking about the resources and income that you're forced to spend on the inventory tax, what would you be able to do if you kept that money in the business instead of paying that to the state of Texas?
That's a great question. More than what I'm doing now. It may go to cost of living increases. It may help us out with health insurance. I mean, there's a lot of things that that might contribute to, but certainly other small businesses, we're going to be able to pitch in and I'm sure be able to wisely use that little bit extra money. But every little bit helps has been my position on this, and I'm hoping, like I said, that they'll help get this across the finish line. This is an important piece of legislation for us.
hmm Don and Jeff, Tim mentioned getting this across the finish line. Obviously, that's what we are working to do. What do you think, from your perspective, if it fails to pass, what would be the effect on small businesses?
I think the first one would be just what Tim said, it's every little bit helps. So as we pull away from that and we don't get things done and get these dollars back into the business, we see opportunities pass business owners by, whether it be the cost of living increase, whether it be the health insurance. We know that our members tell us, again, no matter what state they're in, they tell us that they want to provide health benefits, but can't always do that because of the rise in cost of healthcare. This is something that goes back into the business. You heard it from Tim himself. They are putting their money that they receive from tax savings, the money they receive from not having to spend on tax compliance, putting that back into their business. And so not passing this really takes away the opportunity that's out there to really grow the economy, grow Main Street. We know that our local businesses support their local Main Street organizations, their schools, their local football teams, whatever that might be, local cancer, fundraising awareness. And it's always those local businesses that get hit up first for those. So whether it's through wages, benefits, or just supporting a local community initiative, they're able to put that money back in. So it's just a whole opportunity cost that we're missing by not passing this. And really obviously, and I think Jeff can speak to this, is the increase in the competitiveness of Texas. I think that's the other piece of this.
Yeah, as Tim mentioned, Texas is a great place to own and run a small business, but we do have this tax that we have to deal with. Jeff, is it unique to Texas, or do other states have this issue on their hands?
So states that do it a little bit different, and there are 9 states that are similar to Texas that tax it like a business personal property, tangible personal property, and inventory. There are other states that just do an inventory. There are some that just have property, but Texas is one of the 9 states that actually has kind of the trifecta on this.
Okay. And back to that ballot proposition itself, Tim, what would be your advice to other small business owners that are interested in raising this exemption? What can they do to help, as you said, get this across the finish line?
Well, Adam, that's a good question. I think I would get involved with the local NFIB efforts and try to get the public aware that this is really important to your small businesses in your community, and that they should be able to do a little bit more for the employees and for local businesses. And like we said, we made a pretty strong statement. Texas is a really good place to run a business in. Let's keep it that way, and let's make it better. Let's keep it to be a top state to run a business in. Let's get rid of this inventory tag. I'd like to get rid of it, right? I'd like to get rid of it totally. But at least this is a pretty significant step in that direction. It's not making it totally go away, right? We're moving from 2,500 to what, 125,000, I think. So it's not totally going away, but it's a pretty good step in that direction.
It is. Jeff, what's next? What can small business owners do to help?
Well, I've been out around the state over the last month talking to small business owners and letting them know this out on the ballot. Now, one of the things about a constitutional election on the ballot is that there's not a lot of other exciting things that are happening at the same time. So we don't have congressional elections this time. We don't have a statewide governor election. So these are voters that are usually very engaged, and we see maybe 5, sometimes up to 20% of voters that are registered that even show up in these elections. So, all votes matter, but on an election like this, your vote may count up to 3 times if you look at the percentages of that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Don, what's the timing for this as far as we know when election day is, but is there early voting, anything else that voters should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Early voting starts Monday, October 20th and runs through Friday, October 31st. So get your voting in before you go trick or treating. But election day is Tuesday, November 4th. And, we just want to remind everybody that this is over a $500 million annual savings to small businesses in Texas. And that goes a long way, again, to support your local community, support what's going on. And we want to be sure that folks, even if you're not in Texas, be sure to reach out to somebody if you do know somebody in Texas and let them know that this is on the ballot. To Jeff's point, there's a lot of things that are on the ballot with these propositions. I believe there's 17 or 20 or so of them. And we want to be sure that folks get out and support Prop 9 through early voting and on election day.
Tim, you've been very generous with your time, so we appreciate you talking to us today. Before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to thank NFIB because the very minimal amount of time that I have from running a small business, and it's minimal, NFIB does a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to try to make business better in Texas. So yes, these people work very hard. And I'm hoping that the voters will see how hard and how diligently these people work, and will see that this is a very positive thing for business, and will vote in the affirmative for this.
That's wonderful. And it shouldn't go without saying that we couldn't do the work that we do without members. So we appreciate your membership as well as the others across the state of Texas. Jeff or Don, anything else before we leave?
I'd just like to say that this is the first opportunity for us to get a significant increase in this exemption for 30 years. It's 1995 is when the 2,500 was put in. And so this is a real significant opportunity, and we've got to get it past the finish line. Like Tim said, we're on the 2-yard line, but we really need our members to get out and vote for this and push this the final 2 yards across the goal line.
That's right. Go vote.
It's a great place to end it. Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for having us. We enjoyed it.
Thank y'all for all your work and what you do for, for the betterment of small business and make things better in Texas. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing more information about this issue for small business owners and the importance of Texas voters getting the vote to yes on Prop 9 on or before November 4th. For more information on this issue, go to protecttexassmallbusiness.org. And if you like this episode, please help small business owners find the podcast by giving it a rating, like, or review. And now I want to thank you, the listeners, for joining us on today's Small Business Rundown. We'll be back every 2 weeks, bringing you news and analysis from Washington, D.C. and state capitals so that you, whether you're a small business owner or a supporter of one, can continue to blaze a trail.
The Small Business Rundown is brought to you by NFIB, the voice of small business. You can find us at nfib.com and on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.